I always like it when people starting to get quiet when I'm waiting. Normally at home it's totally different. I can welcome everybody. Come and sit. Welcome to the Innovation Café. My name is Charlotte Gruen. I'm a designer based in Eindhoven, for the people who don't know me. My studio is in het Klokgebouw on Strijp S, and I also graduated from the Design Academy. And today we have special guests. Actually, every week, every time we have special guests. Sorry, it's true. I was wondering, who of you is here for the first time at the Innovation Café? Wow. Many people, new people joining our community. That's great. Yeah, that's the theme of today. I will do a small introduction for you, especially for you. All the other peoples know it already. The Eindhoven Innovation Café is like every month now. We hope to do it much more further, like every week or every 2 weeks. And what we do, we connect tech and design. And we talk about Brainport Eindhoven, I just learned. We talk about that further. I used to say Brainport, but I just find out from our marketing guru that it's actually Brainport Eindhoven. And we will talk about tech and design, and especially the connection between it and how it can help to solve the wicked problems that we're facing. And that's actually the question that we have today. It's like, how do we build real communities in a world full of noise? So give a big applause for Femke and Pelin and Peter. First we will start with you, because what you've done, I will do a small introduction. Yeah, is it green? Yeah. Perfect. You two are actually part of the community of the Eindhoven Innovation Café. And what is really interesting is that you two are students from the TUE, and you did a design research about our community. Yeah. So first of all, why did you choose our community?
Should I go first? So basically, I met with Innovation Café through. Yeah. Is it better?
Yeah, it's better.
I met Innovation Café through a talk I did here, actually, and it was my first week in my student team, so it was a bit stressful, but it went pretty well. And I was really surprised that there is a community that connects the people this well, and no one even knew about the cafe. So once we had this course, I was really invested in researching this community, and we were really interested in how people actually find this community, they hear about this community, and why isn't it so popular? Knowing that it really connects a lot of people from any backgrounds, any disciplines, any ages, in a common shared interest of tech and design at the same time.
And how did you find out about Eindhoven Innovation?
For me, it was through my student team, and I was the person talking here. And then it was also actually my first time hearing about the cafe, which is a bit controversial. But then I started joining the talks like quite often, so this is now my second time speaking here. And yeah, it just became a habit now, okay. I guess.
And for you, Femke?
Well, I actually found the Innovation Café through Pelin. She introduced me. When we started working together, she talked about the Innovation Café. And it really surprised me that I hadn't heard of it before, because as an industrial design student in Eindhoven, you would love to hear from people actually working in the industry. Yeah. Because actually as a student, it's hard to connect to the industry as is. So I was really intrigued by it. And since then, we've visited it a couple of times. And we've got to know the community. It's been great.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. And we are, of course, very curious about your research. Yep. Can you tell us a bit about it?
Yep. So basically, we were given, we were taking a course called Design and Research. And our design brief was do a research. It was really vague, actually. It was do a research on a community, and we were fully free on which community we can do or like which research question we can discuss. And for the reasons we mentioned, we really liked the Innovation Café, and we went through multiple research questions and ended up with the one you can actually see. And basically, the whole the whole course was done through a methodology called cultural probe kits. And this is a way of learning about some results or like some insights that you might not initially get from a data or like quantitative kind of study. And we were really interested in learning the insights that people might not actually think of in the back of their minds, or the insights that might not come up to mind at first. So we are really trying to read in between the lines. And we had some interactive exercises, and you can see the outcomes on the background. And yeah, Femke is going to go more into the details of what we actually had in the prop kits. But through this methodology, we really wanted to see what connects these people, what they feel when they come to this Innovation Cafe talks, or what actually brings them here, basically. And yeah, Femke is going to elaborate further on the results.
So our means was to find out what actually connects the people from Eindhoven Innovation Café, so what brings them here and what makes them stay. So what we did is we gave participants that we met here a kit that contained a bunch of things. First of all, some questions. Questions like their age and their professional background, but also how they felt about the community. So for instance, if talking at an Eindhoven Innovation Café event were to be like a wild animal, would it be more like a bird soaring confidently through the sky, or would it be a rabbit afraid to hide in its hole? But also like photo prompts and an arts and crafts assignment, as you see right here. It's meant to be very vague. It's actually so that people, they ask themselves, okay, what is the question and how am I going to answer it? So what we did here is ask people to make a representation of how they felt that the community of the Eindhoven Innovation Café is built, how the communication flows, basically the atmosphere. And we gave them some materials, but we also told them you can use any materials that you feel are fitting to tell your story. So as you can see above, the insights, the results from people, they were vastly different and very interesting as well. So at the top, for instance, you can see a lantern. And the interesting thing about it is that a lantern, it's light, it represents warmth. It also has multiple layers, so it represents complexity. But in the lower right corner, you can see a living room. Well, actually a dining room. There's a lot of art on the walls, there is a map on the bottom, and there's a lot of food, and there's light bulbs on the chairs. So we think it represents inspiring conversations, people from all over the place. People have used natural products. They've even drawn self-portraits and gave us quotes from books that they found interesting and fitting. It's very different, and you see some quotes there as well. So one person said, "The presence of the community influences me a lot. I will not speak if there's no trust." We think that this really represents the community in a way that we wouldn't have found if we would have asked them, hey, how do you like being there? Because it shows so much more how people truly feel the warmth, the depth, the connection that they feel, and also what makes them stay. We think it's the connection between the people that they find, and finding people that share your ambitions and your values. So that's what we found. And what actually makes this practical in real life is that, first of all, normally as a designer you would take your findings and then design for a community, so to strengthen their bond or to find a broader audience, but also to give advice to the people within this community if they wish to change things. So if they wish to have more younger people there or older, it works out. So that is how our research applies.
Wow. I've also heard that there's some people that you spoke to as well in the audience.
Yes, actually there are some here today. For instance, Ernst over there. Thank you for participating. It was delightful.
There was one thing I wasn't sure about, is that so the people that you spoke to were also the people who were crafting, making the things.
Yes.
Because basically when we first talked about this project, we were really scared that maybe no one's going to be interested because this was our first time and we didn't know what to expect, and hopefully we had a lot of enthusiasm around it. and a lot of people did approach us saying that they were interested, and we left the probe kits to these people, and some of the people took like a couple of weeks, some of the people took 1 or 2 days to complete the kits, and we got them back after. And yeah, that's basically how the process went.
Okay.
And yeah, we were really, really surprised and like actually proud with the results, because sometimes I think we forget that we are in a tech and design event, because we were scared that the results we will get is not what our teachers are maybe expecting, because of course they are like, it's like, oh, we are gonna get graded, so we want to just make the study work and pass the course most of the times. As students, of course.
Yeah.
And then once we saw how much depth there was, how much thinking there was behind the crafts and everything, and even from here you can see that people were so creative, and I think especially, at least for me, I was so surprised with the results, and it reminded me that independent of your age, of your background, there's still like that little do-it-yourself person in the back of your...
Always.
Yeah, the
always.
kid.
And it's not that design is always, it doesn't have to be always pretty, you know. It's also about telling the story. And I think that's a good, for you, Peter, because you are kind of our marketing guru. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but maybe... The storyteller. Yeah, storyteller. The guru storyteller then. Maybe you can introduce yourself and tell a little bit about yourself and why you are the marketing guru. Story guru. Oh, sorry, story guru. Sorry. I was already there with my hat. We have to do the next slide, please. Thanks.
So to introduce, my name is Peter Kentie. I'm since 1 week 65 years old. so
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing.
My wife said it was my birthday all week, so I still sense it still. It's kind of strange when you become 65. I'm trained as a designer. In the very past, I did the Academy of Industrial Design here in Eindhoven. Let's say the predecessor of the Design Academy. But that school was very much oriented towards the real world. So you ended up in either, what was it? Philips or...
Philips Design.
Philips Design was a logical place to go to, or you went to...
advertisement.
Yeah, so I went to advertising. Always worked in advertising. I started marketing because I tried to understand my client and the things they were trying to express. And I I urge always people to try to once work on both sides of the table. So once you become the designer getting the job, but also once become the guys that commissions the job, because then you learn from both trades a lot. So I had the luck of that a lot of technical inventions influenced the design world. So when I was young, desktop publishing came about, and working with computers and with the Macintosh. And when you had these things under your belt, then somebody invented the World Wide Web. And suddenly you understand, well, what the hell is HTML? And then you find out that HTML is based on the typesetting, let's say, technology from the 60s. So technology also reinvents itself and gets more users. But I always learned that you have to learn both sides. Again, the creative part, but also the technical means that belong with that. And I did very different jobs. I once worked at Ilse, and probably nobody knows Ilse, but it was once bigger than Google in the Netherlands.
I know Ilse.
Yeah, but then Google came to the Netherlands, and then Ilse ended. And then we sold Ilse to the VNU, but it was also nu.nl. Maybe you know nu.nl was also part of the company. I worked for 3 years for Philips Design, and was co-responsible for Philips.com. So that was actually quite interesting job to work for a company with 200,000 employees at that time and one homepage. So what's then on this homepage? So that's you could say that's more social design than design. So, and I also worked for 10 years for the local football club, PSV Eindhoven, to be their marketing.
The local football club.
Yeah.
It sounds very small.
We have two in Eindhoven.
Yeah, that's true.
So the big one. And I must say, I learned really a lot about communities, because if you work for your football club, it has also a children's club of, at my time, 26,000 children that were in there. You have your business clubs, you have your fans, you have your a bit more to enthusiastic fans. So how you deal with them, but in the end, they're also your client.
True.
So that's what's really interesting. And then the last 10 years, 12 years, I worked for the municipality to do the branding and especially change the image of Eindhoven, which was really important.
And that's not all of it. I've heard you also write books, and this is not your first book that you see in the back. This is your last book, to be honest.
Yeah, okay. I did actually 4, 3 by myself and 1 as a collaboration. So what I learned was that every time I had a lot of knowledge, I gave the knowledge away. And then I found out that books are really, really good tools to do that.
True. Yeah.
Versus websites, because nobody can, let's say, blather through a website. But a book is really a patient medium.
Yeah.
So I like that. There's a Dutch saying, so the plural of knowledge is people. So meervoud van kennis is kennis.
Yeah.
And that's actually true. The more knowledge that you give away, the more you get back. But you get back, like you guys are saying, more and more. But you have to share this knowledge. So that's the title of the book is Share the Vibe.
Okay. And can you, because I know Share the Vibe from the Vibes, of course, and we had a small talk before, and you told me that how you did it. You didn't do a pitch for all the creative companies to create this logo. How did it work?
I think the people that, if you one day you have a job and you work in a whatever advertising agency or at a architect, you get to this strange world that the client asks multiple agencies to present, and then one is picked, and the others have to take their loss. And nowadays, you sometimes get a pitch fee, but it actually is a very negative system. And when I started with working on the Eindhoven brand, we had a situation. We had to create a new city marketing logo, because the last one was leading in technology, so leaving out the design, you could say. So they then said, okay, then we do leading in technology, year of design. And then we at PSV said, oh, wait a minute, are we not leading? Oh yeah, sorry, you're year of leading in technology, year of sport. That year we didn't become champion. So that doesn't work. And you had a municipality logo. And I really wanted to make one. Because it's really strange that a city has multiple identities, and companies have one. There's only one TUE or logo, one Philips logo. And then you had, of course, discussion that in a city of design, how do you do a pitch? Because you can't do a pitch, whatever, with 2,000 people.
Sure.
It's the number of people that come to the design week to present. So what we did actually, we asked, let's say, the best to come and sit together, but there were also...
I was not asked. That was why the smile.
No,
it's fine, Peter. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah. It's a long time ago.
Yeah, you were very young.
Just joking.
No, but we also asked for fashion designers, architects, industrial designers. And Miriam van der Lubbe was part of the team. Copywriters, graphic designers. And and we called that Virtual Design Agency.
Oh.
That was a really stupid title, I admit. But the idea was, it's actually a virtual advertising agency, because it exists of people that are during the day are each other's competitor, but for working for the city, they should be their friends. And Remco van der Kraats of EHV, he was the informal leader, and he had a fantastic quote on the very first day when they came together. He said, "We have to do away with our egos."
We have to do our way? Get away of our egos.
Yeah,
okay.
Because designers are egos, and probably engineers even more. But if you have to work together for, let's say, a year or 3/4 of a year, you can't have prima donnas saying, this is my opinion. It was actually quite an interesting experiment to have and I briefed them, I want a logo, I want a typography, I want a language, like a tone of voice, and a photography style. And they succeeded in 3 out of 4.
That's good.
Yeah.
And what was, because you said it was more like an experiment, what was like one of the outcomes that you didn't expect at all?
No,
what surprised you?
What I really surprised was they got paid, of course, for the job, but they invested so much more time And what's surprising is that until this day, the virtual design agency still exists.
Yeah.
But it was actually only for the job. And also what was a really surprising thing was they created the typeface, the Eindhoven type, not a really creative name, but and the Eindhoven type was actually based on duct tape.
Ah.
And yeah, so it's this.
I see it.
So they're actually pieces of duct tape. And the reasoning of the designers was, engineers love duct tape, so even Formula One engineers, they tape that. But also designers love duct tape.
Yeah.
So it's like a
Kidnappers.
common tool. You could say the same is with a 3D printer or a new material. So a designer has an opinion on that, but also the engineer has an opinion.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to find the commonalities. But it doesn't say that every designer is a good typeface designer.
True.
So at a certain point we got a call from a guy called Peter van Rosmalen, and he said, I saw the typeface. It's really shit. So you need my help. So can I join the virtual design agency? So then I found out it had left its kind of mark in Eindhoven. There was this club of people that you could also become a part. And later we asked also people from exhibition design, or so you have audiovisual design. You have so many design skills.
Yeah, disciplines.
Disciplines.
Yeah.
And usually we only talk about product design, and later I learned also the enormous power of social design.
Yeah.
But it's all the kind of different mentality, different mindset of the designers or the engineers themselves.
Yeah. Interesting. Now we know who you are
Yeah.
and what you did. I'm also curious about your opinion, or do you have questions for Pelin and Femke about their research?
Yeah, we had, of course, our first talk, and when we did the research on Eindhoven, Remco van der Kraats, he found something really unique about Eindhoven. I know if you guys also. And what's unique is that we have a vast community of, I could say, tech people, the nerdy people. But we have also a vast group of creative design people. And actually, when we did the research, we found out there are only 4 or 5 cities in the whole world that have both in large numbers. And people here don't underestimate this. So we found out that, for example, Helsinki has the same profile, because Helsinki has, let's say, Marimekko, Itala, but at the same time it has Nokia, Rovio. Austin was also a city. Austin has, is it like Eindhoven, a semiconductor city? Actually, it's tech is semiconductor. But it's also music industry. Another city was Tel Aviv. Like say, maybe you could say war tech, at the same time also very creative. And of course the most famous of them all, San Francisco. And you could say, would have been there an Apple without, let's say, LSD or creativity. And so you
Well, that's a topic we can talk about, yeah?
It's actually in the biography of
Yeah.
Jobs, so
Yeah, true.
it actually kind of works. You could say one of the most spiritual ages in the music industry was the 70s.
Yeah.
It was very much related to LSD.
And what is your question?
Sorry,
I'm not on LSD, so I cannot really talk.
The question is, I say it's very difficult in Eindhoven is to bring these worlds together. Somebody says, because in the end, the tech people think different than the people from design.
True.
And I think the beauty of this and this today is this. So the question actually, are they coming together, or is a tech group and a design group, and do they mingle?
Well, in a competitive way, yes.
In a competitive way?
Yes. Well, I found that as you go to these sort of events, even seminars from outside of TU, you find that people all over the place come. So I went to this seminar in Den Bosch, and I met people from the Design Academy there. And it was great to talk to them. We both loved the topic that they were talking about. But within our own community, it's more so a bit more playful. So we, as industrial designers, are known at TU as the Arts and Crafts Club, for instance.
Okay.
And then also we say, well, you can smell if you walk into a room and there's electrical engineers there. But yeah, we do connect with each other, and I think on a more personal level more than professionally.
Okay.
Yeah, I think one of the struggles was also to show the more tech-oriented people the value of the industrial design, I'm going to call it, but also like the value of being able to communicate with people, understand different design processes, understand the whole design vision, I would say. Because once you work in more multidisciplinary courses or like teams, sometimes I think, encounter a lot of like, the second you put the design process inside of some tech people, they just look at it and they're like, okay, like what do we do? Just give me the prompt. And you're like, yeah, that's the whole point. So I think like the nice thing about the Innovation Cafe is we have that mix here because it's tech and design. And what can be even better is if we can find more people that are on from the both sides and find a way to integrate both of them, not just find the people that are tech and design, but actually, let's say it like mingle both of the sides too. But yeah, I agree. There's a mix of the people that knows both and that are more on the spectrums, I would say.
Do you have an idea, Peter, how we can connect more together, like design and tech?
Yeah, somebody invented the Dutch Design Week, but that also was one of the criticism that
It's
we
not
got.
the Dutch and Tech Design Week, eh?
Okay,
So
okay. To be honest, I was also one of the founders of the Dutch Technology Week, which is now gone. So it's called now Dutch Technology Festival. But it's the big difference with the Dutch Design Week is that the Dutch Technology Week was more from the companies, and yes, also from the university, but it's not a community-driven thing. So this bottom-up meets top-down, which is, I think, the quality of the Design Week, is that you have these both levels. And if you only have top-down, that doesn't work. But the reason there was a Dutch Technology Week was because you want to give people, let's say, the love of technology. So you should tell people, don't go to law school. You only learn a book by your head. And so, now AI solves all these things. But somebody can be creative in tech and can be creative in design.
Sure.
So that's why we really like words like innovation and creativity, because that's what they share. We learned that somebody that writes really good code in programming is almost like poetry. That's what they say. There are engineers that work here in big companies that they write 3 lines of code in a year because the machine is so complex that if you add a little bit, it doesn't have to ruin the whole thing. So I think this deep-rooted love of the profession, that's what you want to share.
Yeah.
But that has to be shared. So somebody that's influenced you or somebody that you look up to, that's the ones that have to give their knowledge away.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes really difficult.
And it's also very personal, huh?
Yeah,
it's a moment in time, so that's also...
when I read the book about ASML, which is fascinating because you have this world of Natlab, of Philips, where they were like the prima donna engineers, and they created something and they gave it to the engineering people at ASML, like, now build it. So you also see it's also about respect, and it's also about keeping in touch with things.
Yeah.
So I think this day and age is now like my day and age once with desktop publishing, and now we call this AI, and now we have AI agents. But they are fantastic tools, and you see that some people spot the tool and use the tool, and other people have this notion like, oh, my day, one day it will come and I'll work on it.
Yeah.
But I think it's a mentality thing that you want to share.
Yeah, and I was also thinking we had this talk before. Yeah, I'll come to you for a question. Do you want a question now, or shall I? Oh, yeah, that's also good. Yeah, sure.
Last night I was having a discussion. It was, Jos Feijer, I'm director of the FNR, also doing lots of stuff in tech and music. Last night I was having a discussion. It was framed by CIIC, which is a large fund, of course, which is going on. And we were talking about immersive makers. So people making stuff for immersive experiences, which is going to be the future. And one of the things we were discussing about, an immersive maker is not one person, it's a collective. and you need to come together because you don't have all the knowledge of all the things that are going on. You're not able to follow up on all the developments that are going on. So you need to find a collective that is going to be this one immersive maker. I think that's something that's going on right now, what you're talking about as well. I mean, you need tech, you need design, and it should be, and I think I like about what Remco said, you should put aside the egos. It's about what you want to create together, and you need input from all sides. So that's just adding.
Yeah, well, thank you, Jos. Thank you for adding.
Well, when I worked at Philips Design, we had this fantastic CEO, Stefano Mazzano, and I used one of his quotes in the book, and his quote was, the next Da Vinci is a collective.
Yeah.
Because nowadays you can't do it on your own anymore. Yeah?
But
on your own is not negative.
True.
It's an invitation for sharing.
But it's also the question if he was alone, huh? In history. We don't know that either, so yeah. How is that for you?
Well, I do agree with what you say. I think that most of us, we feel the most connected with our peers as we find inspiration together, but also create together. It's what I think is one of the most beautiful things about industrial design as well. We are mostly the connecting factor between all sorts of different professions, and we work a lot cross-sector. And one of the most beautiful things about this is meeting so many different people from so many different backgrounds, and actually getting to know them on a personal level, which is also, I think, the core of the research that we did. Really getting to learn how to get to know people personally and work together with them and co-create with them as you design. It's a really beautiful thing, actually, co-creation. We try to do that with the people around us, but also with nature. And I think that's the future. We create so many things that do not fit our society and not fit our world. And I think that is where the future lies.
Thank you. Well, I forgot to mention in the beginning, for the people who are here for the first time, the order is a little bit that we have speakers, and then afterwards we have time for questions. So, do you have someone? Does someone has a question or something to add? Yeah.
Mr. Peter, right? In your, my name is Burak. Yeah, thank you for explaining. I expected a bit of storytelling technique, to be honest, when you were talking about your life, but that's fine, because a guru of storyteller. But anyways, my question is, what do you mean by the vibe? Could you elaborate on that? Share the vibe in your book. Yeah, the vibe. What do you mean? I think.
No, okay. So the thing, the vibe is, let's say, the name of the logo of Eindhoven. So which we created, which the group created. The main thing, of course, what the task was when we started was not to create a logo, but to change an identity, or especially change an image. When we started with the project in 2010, there was a really negative economic times. I don't know if you were here then at that time, but before that you had the Lehman Brothers, the credit crisis,
2007.
It was 2007, 2008. I think ASML was laying off people, I think 1,000 people at that time. And Eindhoven was a bit haunted by its image in media. So if you would have, our mayor who gave me the commission, he put it like this. He said, so it's now 2010. When I tell the audience I'm the mayor of Eindhoven, the typical reaction of the audience was, oh dear, you're the mayor of Eindhoven. And then he asked, why are you saying that? And then the audience would say, DAF, the truck builder, is bankrupt. And Philips is now in Amsterdam. And then the mayor said, no, that's not true. DAF is still making, 380 trucks per day, but they owned now by Packer. And yes, the corporate headquarters of Philips is in Amsterdam, but they're still here in Best and in Eindhoven. So why this negativity? So he gave the commission like this. So I think you're as good as your commission. The commission was, what the mayor said, when in the future, when I say I'm the mayor of Eindhoven, then the audience say, wow, you're from Eindhoven.
I'm sorry.
But it's a beautiful commission because you have to change somebody's mindset. And we actually, when we did the research, we found out we had 3 target audiences. One was tech starters, because at that time, the bigger companies were laying off people, but the startups were hiring. So they were actually, in that period for Eindhoven, much more interesting than the bigger corporates. The second target audience were, let's say, the creative individuals, the change makers. The people like Jalila Asaidi. I don't know if somebody here knows her. She is...
She creates the fabric out of cow.
Yeah, for
shit.
example. But she is in this interdisciplinary world between biology and design. And those people, if you ask her, she probably knows a lot of the world leaders because she's very famous. And such a person is also interesting for your brand. And of course, we worked at the university, but I focus solely on the student teams. Because the student teams, at that time, they were very successful in the beginning. They won this race, solar race in Australia. They once won an award which is called the Tech Crunch Award. Now everybody knows it, but to illustrate, they won. Tesla was 2 and Apple was 3. And the student team of the University of Eindhoven was number 1, because they built this solar car. I think, and we discussed this earlier, I think the total media value of the student teams was over €1 billion. So you use tech in your storytelling. So I think this, at the same time, we have the Design Week, which attracts enormous amounts of influential people from all over the world to come to Eindhoven. And so...
And what is then the connection to sharing the vibe, like the payoff?
Yeah, so the payoff was that we had a discussion, should you have actually a payoff?
Yeah.
Because, and usually it doesn't work. So in the beginning we didn't have a name for the logo. So somebody called it, in Dutch then the wokkel, or the zigzag.
Okay, I have no idea how to translate that in English.
But zigzag is a really shitty name, of course, for a logo. So, and then somebody said, the vibes. Oh, that's interesting, because you want to communicate that this city and this region has huge amounts of energy. And then the logical thing, of course, that if you do like more the social research is that this sharing is all over the place in Eindhoven. But I think it's also connected to when you have experienced really bad times, you're much more inclined to share with each other. And it's a very different mentality than if you live in Amsterdam, where it's much more keeping your cards on your chest. And here's more like the typical engineering, like, I did this invention, oh, fantastic. And then somebody asks, did you ask to patent it? Oh, no, good idea. Well, you share it first.
Yeah.
So there's also this kind of naive feeling of joy of creating things, and that joy you want to share. So I think...
Or the joy of sharing.
Yeah, so I think share the vibe, share the energy, actually is a really good informal payoff. And that's also the title of the book.
Does someone else wants to share a question? Yes. What's your name?
I'm Yassine. I'm studying at TUE. Listen for Peter. Could you tell us about the lessons you learned from designing that one page of Philips that should represent 200,000 people?
That was a really difficult job because some of my colleagues there experienced that. So what we actually did, we acted like a publisher. And a publisher makes magazines or makes whatever television, and a publisher has a board of editorial board. So what you actually did, we almost 3/4 of the homepage we actually gave back to the Philips organization. So, and we started on the 1st of January. So I don't know if you know Philips well, but Philips Lighting, is that still? They had this big Christmas tree in New York, in the Central Park, in the ice skating ring in New York, and it was lit up by Philips Lighting. So what you actually said, okay, Philips Lighting, now you have to create content, let's say the first 6 days of January. And then you had, for example, in January, you had the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. Then we gave the homepage, main part, to the division of Philips Consumer Electronics. So, okay, they're selling televisions at that time or whatever product. And then you had, for example, quarter financials. So you gave it for one day to the people from finance to say our quarter to fourth finances are really well. And that system worked fantastically because if you would, there was a discussion before that the people, for example, from the Philly shaves, they said, okay, we are so much part of your total turnover. I want to be this big on the homepage. And the people from the refrigerators, they were saying like, I also want on the homepage. So you have this kind of refrigerator and this big of a Philly shave. So that doesn't work. So this acting like a publisher, an editorial solution, solved all discussions.
And it's
it
constantly
actually,
new.
the beauty of the story was it stayed on like this for, I think, 4 or 5 years. I left, of course, and then Philips invented the slogan, sense and simplicity. And you know what they did? They took everything off the homepage, had only a search bar like Google, and they put an image of a baby on top of it. Because the advertising or whatever the creative people have said, okay, if you have sense and simplicity, you also need a very simple homepage. But the problem was with Philips, that if, for example, if you were looking for batteries, you had to go to the homepage of Philips Lighting. Because through all these kinds of historical parts, all these products were kind of scattered around the company. So, and the search engine wasn't working really well. So then they got all these complaints from the inside the organization, say, we're no longer being found. And this editorial solution worked really well, because they knew I had 2 weeks long, as a really small part of Philips, still I had the main homepage. So they learned their lesson.
Does anybody else has a question? Maybe for the girls? Yeah, oh, sorry. You were in the dark.
Hi, my name is Hans Hauf. I worked at Philips a long time ago. Before that, I think. But anyhow, the question is, we talk about design and we talk about engineers and tech. In the end, it has to come together in business. And how do you see that? Because it would be interesting to see that that these innovations, which where design and tech comes together, but that really has to bring somehow business. How that is let's say connected to the things you are saying. For both, for both groups. Yeah.
I think that's a good question because I have a personal interest in business and like marketing also. And I also did internships, so I really had the opportunity to see like all three of them, like tech from my university, design also from my university, also like personal interest with business. And I think the strength is for the business, for example, you really need to be, your like feet needs to be on the ground. You need to be realistic, you need to be knowing what you're actually doing, you need to know about the feasibility. And sometimes us as designers, we really like the abstract, for example. You just find an idea and sometimes it's an amazing idea, really nice, but maybe it's not doable. And I think the tech people, they're really on the feasibility. So they're like fully on, we can do this or we can do that. And I think like the most important part is being able to see the strengths of all of these three. And as the business people, take the doable parts, take the abstract, cool ideas, and put that into an actionable business plan. So I think the business is the making it actually work. Tech is providing all the software, hardware part, and the design is really on the ideation, actually the creative part. Of course, the tech people can also be creative. But yeah, just like mixing all of them together, I would say.
I think it's also about, willingness to be daring. So to step out of your comfort zone as a designer and to talk to that one engineer who you think is stuck up in his ways. And then for the engineer to actually think, okay, I know a lot and I know how I want to build this, but maybe there's another way. So taking on that adventure and also having a beer together. It sounds a bit silly, but I found that as you work in interdisciplinary teams, and it's hard to connect at first because you have your prejudices and you think, okay, how am I going to work with these people? They don't know what I know. You have a beer with them first. You get to know them a little and you talk about city stuff and, oh yeah, I went to this party this weekend, it was crazy. But then you kind of get to know them as people first. And you get to see their human side before you work together professionally. And then you actually, I found it easier to bring up the confidence and the willingness to be daring in that sense. So let's all have a beer.
I totally agree. Peter, do you?
Yeah, but I once worked at an advertising agency in Eindhoven, and you had this famous Sir David Ogilvy, and he has this famous quote: "If it doesn't sell, it's not creative."
Ooh.
And he tried to convey the message that you can have this whatever out of blue idea, but in the end there's a customer or there's a user, and if it's only creative to be creative, in the end I think every designer or engineer in this case will still feel a bit limited, because you want to have a market, you want to have people using it, and or you use the Microsoft method, that you send the prototype to the customers, and then they react on the product, and then you make it better again, versus the Philips methodology of over-engineering the thing and then asking, does somebody want to buy this? So I think the lesson of Ogilvy was that creativity and business should go hand in hand, and otherwise you end up, let's say, missing a lot of beautiful things in the end, but also a nice turnover.
The creative director of Arend once told me that if you create something really pretty, it will, I don't know how to say it in English, I will do it in Dutch because then it's easier. Iets sterft dan in een schone dood. So if you create something too pretty, it will die a beautiful death, because no one will buy it or ever see it. So that's also true. We have a question here from Betsy. An ad. Oh, was that? I thought it was a small question. This. Okay.
Reiterating what you're saying, it's like creativity for creativity's sake and technology for technology's sake will always die. We see a lot of. I work in the tech field, and sometimes the biggest criticism I can have for some of the tech startups that I work with is this is just tech for tech, and so it's the confluence of these things. That's what we're talking about. The whole discussion has been about cross-functional, how we can all know each other and create together from our different angles, and that's where really beautiful things come about, and I really believe that we need each other, and it's so hard. It's hard to stay in our channels, Oh, you're tech people. Oh, you're design people. But I think we have to find ways to come together and have a beer and talk about more things, So yeah, thank you.
And also leaving your ego, huh? Yeah. That was also one of the tips. Yeah. Does someone else has a question, or are we ready for a beer and letting our ego here?
It was really difficult things you asked, right? Get over your ego. Like Mission Impossible, right? I know. For most people, I think. This is what makes we live, right? Oh, yeah, sure. So I just wanted to ask about the item that you built. I didn't quite understand. Maybe you could share more information, like what kind of feedback did you collect, and like did you have a questionnaire, or, and yeah, so this is my first session, so I don't have the context about your item. Yeah, thanks.
So basically, like, do you mean what we included in the kit, and what was people supposed to do, or?
What we did was to essentially learn more research methods that are a bit out of the box. So all of us know about sending out a questionnaire or collecting quantitative data, but the goal of this was to learn how to get to know a target audience and a community more closely and more on a personal level, because it will give you much different insights. So when I ask you, how do you feel about going to the Innovation Café? People will go say, oh yeah, fine, it was an inspiring talk. And how we did our research was we gifted them a bag, and it contained questions, it contained photo prompts. So for instance, take a picture of a place where you had an inspiring conversation. But we also gave them the arts and crafts assignment, in which we just asked them to make a visual representation of how they felt about the atmosphere within the Eindhoven innovation community. And because it's such a vague way of doing research, you get such personal answers. People really made the assignment their own. They used a bunch of different materials. They could use whatever they liked. And it really leaves it open for interpretation as well as to what they mean with it. So that's how we collected our data. It was not the things that we built, it was the things that the participants built that we were to show today. To show you how connected the Eindhoven Innovation Café really is as a community, and how beautifully deep and valuable that connection can be.
Okay. Thank you. Annema?
Can you share a little bit about what you found out, your insights, and maybe even your personal connection, Pelin?
Yeah.
I think that's so beautiful.
Yeah, basically the findings were like a big chunk of, I'm going to call it data, but it's not data, of course, but it was really nice. And we, like, in the exercises, we had some exercises about, like, maybe share a memory that you really remember from the Innovation Cafe, or if you would kind of like connect how you feel the conversation to an animal or like to an event. So it was really deepening in a sense, and it was really vague. Also, it was really hard for us to design it too, because we weren't told anything. So it was just like really our interpretations in general. And yeah, for the what do you mean by my understanding? Like the connections.
Yeah.
Okay. So
personal
basically,
insights.
yeah, my personal insights would be like, I think it's going to connect back to leaving your egos out and really seeing the strengths of all of the people from tech, design, business, and different backgrounds. Because the insights were that people really think outside of the box when they are giving the speech. Because once we did this study, we got the results that we would never even think of. For example, you can see the box over there, and it's like a lantern because it shows the depth and like the inspiring kind of lightning vibe of the Innovation Cafe. And while we were analyzing these results, we were overall really surprised on how, like, by asking the right questions, how many and how depth of answers you can get from these people. So that would be my personal insights, I think.
And for you, Femke, you're just one sentence. What was really an inspiring story? We have to wrap up a little bit. It's time for beer. Yeah. And we have had.
In one sentence,
Yeah.
my personal experience?
Yeah. One of the interesting outcomes of the research.
Well, I think that I got to experience it just as the participants did. So I came here for the first time trying to experience and get to know the community a little, also to be able to design this research. And what I experienced was a warm welcome. It was a very warm bath to step into. And what I found really special is that the people who participated all felt the same way. It was people from vastly different backgrounds and professional backgrounds, but also different nationalities, ages, genders. They all felt the same connection and warmth, and that was really nice to.
Nice. Oh, sorry, Annemoon, we don't have time. So I know you're the organizer, but I have to be. We also have Hans. He is like also a big, important person from our community. And what is very interesting is that every time you make a drawing of what you see, and it's like a summary.
Okay, thank you. I liked very much the way you visualized what people feel and think. I think that's a very indirect way of finding out what people are really, what it is about. And I heard the words co-create and interdisciplinary. I think they are very important, and you apply them. I mean, you didn't talk about them theoretically. For your interest, the Eden project is a very nice project which was started like this. And it's very nice to go to and find out how it works on a big scale. And Peter, I liked your duct tape. I think it's wonderful. I mean, duct tape is like the Force in Star Wars. It holds everything together. And what you said is all about getting people together. And when you clap your hands, you don't know which hand made the clap, but you need them both. And I found in your approach that you're constantly looking for the clap and then working together with people to get a good sound. I liked it.
Wow, Hans, thank you. Well, sorry, Ademon. At the bar, we have more time for questions. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. So our next Innovation Café will be next month. We will announce it on our socials. Thank you all for coming. Come back again. Bring your family and friends and colleagues. And of course, our speakers, Peter, Pelin, Femke. Thank you very much and enjoy your evening.